really want to bring back the horror element of Resident Evil.
I think people will be surprised at how scary it is.
We see a lot of the fan favorite creatures in the movie.
It's really fun to see the various stages of the zombies.
These guys who do the prosthetics and stuff are incredible.
It was very important to bring something new with the zombies, whilst also, you know, making sure we were faithful to the game. The core thing about the movie that really separates it from anything that I've seen before is there's a real humanity to the zombies. We see these people get sick and then start to transform into these horrendous creations. Steve Newburn was my makeup designer, and we created this really horrible, sort of translucent, almost like radiation sickness look for the zombies.
The idea of how the virus takes over the body and the various stages in which it starts to decay the body was really well mapped out. There's a scene with the mother and her kid at the early stage of the movie where you start to sort of realize, like, oh, like it's like in the water and it's been affecting these people for a while and sort of chipping away at their DNA and they're starting to break down.
I remember the first time I saw one, I didn't know it was a zombie in makeup. I just thought it was someone that didn't look very well. But it was like an early stage. Just looked like he was balding badly and had a very bad night the night before.
The big thing with them is we didn't cast extras. We cast actors as the zombies, and we really worked on performance and really tried to make it disturbing and creepy.
There was a day where we were rehearsing and I didn't realise that the zombie was actually going to jump out during the rehearsal, and it jumped out and scared the absolute bejesus out of me. But then there are all these really nice stunt guys that I've known for like 3 months now. I'm like, oh, hi, Jerry, it's just you in there. But the makeup is so impressive. The team have done such a good job that it is so easy to forget that it isn't real.
The worst one was when we did the laboratory scene and the girl just laid there on the surgical table. There was like this amazing prosthetic where they caved in her chest and you could see all her insides hanging out. That was pretty shocking because it just looked so good.
The funny thing is when you see somebody in full zombie makeup, like having a snack or talking on their phone or doing something that is super anti-zombie, and by snack I mean like a bowl of soup or something, like, you know, not a human brain.
Lisa Trevor?
Lisa Trevor was one of the most fascinating characters to portray in the movie. In all the iterations of the game on screen, I'd never seen her brought to life before. And so it was really fun to make her a core character in the movie. She's an orphan that's been experimented on and is basically hiding within the walls of the orphanage. And she has this mask made of like human flesh, and she wears like old rags and clothes, and she has this board that holds the hand together. There's something very tragic and haunting about her character, as well as being terrifying. We cast a very interesting young actress who really was not just someone in a costume and a suit. She really brought a life and personality to this tormented being. The VFX process is very complex. The effects in the movie were 50% practical, and then we augmented a lot of it with digital effects, and we had some really complex digital creatures, some stuff that I think we pushed some boundaries on in how we were creating the Birkin creature and the liquor. William Birkin is the doctor in the movie who's been creating these different viruses. Towards the end, he gets shot and he injects himself with his own work in order to save himself. And we see him transform into bigger and bigger and more terrifying creations. It's pretty spectacular.
I think what they've done with the character design for Birkin is so cool, and its DNA is so interlaced into the game.
I saw his costume and some of his veins, the prosthetics. It looks really, really wonderful.
The liquor is one of the most iconic creatures in the game. It's a genetic mutation experiment. It's all flesh. It's like a human being that's been totally skinned, and it's just muscle and flesh and teeth and this huge long tongue that can whisk out and grab people. It's great. The sequence in the movie with it is just mind-blowing, I think.
Run! Come on!
The key was to create an audience-friendly, scary film. And I really wanted to bring new fans, old fans, people that know nothing about Resident Evil to this world and just terrify the crap out of them. Welcome to Raccoon City is very faithful to the games. This is not an action movie. This is a horror movie with action in it.
I grew up on the video games and I watched the movies, and now being part of it is kind of a dream come true.
Every time I've stepped on set, it's been a joy. I've loved every second of it.
Resident Evil, it's a video game staple. It's one of the pillars of my youth when it comes to video games. First horror video game. It's an originator of its type.
This movie is the beginning of Resident Evil. This is where it all started. 1998, the iconic characters coming together, and you will see how this great universe began.
It's a lot of fun and a lot of thrills and a lot of chills.
The tone of the movie, I really wanted it to be dark and scary, but not grim. I'm a huge John Carpenter fan. I'm a huge Stephen King fan. And I really wanted to bring those horror influences into this Resident Evil world. And you can really see it. There's a playfulness behind the dark scariness.
What we've tried to do with the franchise as well is inject a lot more of the humor from the original games, and there's kind of light moments.
Should we call someone? Who are you gonna call? You're the police.
While still keeping the intensity of the journey and the characters and the story of the characters as well.
When casting the movie, it was really important to find people that could bring each of these characters to life.
As a kid growing up playing the games, I was so pumped to play a character that I grew up wanting to be like. He's this badass STARS officer. You know, you get to be an action hero, but at the same time, this script has heart and has humor.
This is really nice, but I think I broke some ribs.
And you get to bring a real side to a character that you've really only seen in video games.
Robbie's been just amazing. He looks identical to his character.
He looks like a bloody action hero. It's ridiculous, like the most handsome thing ever. It's almost annoying. But he's really funny and sweet, and yeah, we've gotten on really well.
In the pit scene, he pelts me with a foam football, and he's supposed to like hit around me or whatever. The last take, he nailed me in the face by accident. So that was fun. That's all right.
Oh, bro, you okay?
What, something happened?
There definitely is a great sense of responsibility portraying a character that people know and love because you're aware of what it means to them. But I also think that it's important as an actor to be able to put that to one side and just do your best.
Kaya's awesome. She's super talented, smart, collaborative, super easy to work with. Made having our brother-sister chemistry that much easier.
You must be the rookie.
My introduction to Leon probably was Resident Evil 4. I played it all the time. It was like the game. It was cool to come back to these games I loved as a kid and to play them and look at behavior from Leon in the games, physical behavior, and sort of mimic and match that as an actor and try to give new life to that.
Avin, to me, is like my little brother on the set. I adore him. He's quirky and artsy and funny and silly, and he's kind of been the one that I've spent the most time with.
I'm Jill Valentine. Jill's a very, very tough cookie.
What would the worst way to die be? To be swallowed whole by a snake or eaten alive by a great white shark?
You're a freak, Valentine.
I read the script and I just was so pumped. I was so psyched to play this character because she's just so badass.
With Wesker, we are going on a more humanistic side of him. We're seeing who he really is underneath the sunglasses. I want to bring the human out of this guy. We wanted to see that moral dilemma that he goes through. Even though he's doing all this for selfish reasons and he's betraying them, he's not fundamentally a bad guy.
Tom's awesome until you're standing beside him. That's the worst. He's enormous. His arms are like tree trunks. I'm in pretty good shape. And then you stand beside Tom and you're like, God, I wish I had sleeves. We got so lucky. Our cast is so great. And I think it's gonna show on screen. We're all friends and these characters are all close and have known each other forever. So it was really important that worked out for us. If you played the games, you know that these movies should be a little bit scary, and Johannes is the right guy for this.
Working with Johannes is great. He's a horror filmmaker through and through.
He's such a gamer himself, and because he's got such passion with Resident Evil and this project, it's been really fun. Sometimes when I go behind the monitor and see what's been shot, it looks incredible. He's really, really nailed the genre of horror.
There's always an advantage when you're working with a filmmaker who's also the scriptwriter, because they start directing day one of the project. They think about the way they're writing the scene and how they're going to edit it and how this aspect is going to play into this aspect, so the through lines lace all together in a really cohesive way.
He's super collaborative. He allows us to be a part of building of the scenes beforehand.
He was so willing to let us try things and be free. So as an actor, that's a gift, you know, and that came from the top as well, from all the producers and everything. They wanted us to feel really free to be able to play and try stuff.
This movie was, without a doubt, the hardest movie of my career to make. It was entirely shot at night, pretty much all in a small town about 4 hours outside Toronto called Sudbury, which is this little mining town, and I fell in love with it. It represented the movie I wanted to make, but it was pretty hard to shoot out there. We had to bring everybody there and live out there for several months, and we were shooting -10. You know, the rain machines were freezing, and it was tough. It was grueling.
You kind of end up turning into a zombie yourself or a vampire because you kind of don't see daylight anymore.
It's a zombie movie. It's a Resident Evil movie. You need it to be a little wet and a little scary and a little dirty. And I think it shows. The movie looks unbelievable.
I'm always trying to stay physically prepped for these things because you never know what situations you're going to be thrown in, and topping up on the weapons training is always really important, especially when you're playing like a tactical officer in a police force. It's important to know what that gun feels like, and it's like second nature.
I didn't have to learn any new weapons when it comes to gun training, stunts. I've had a lot of experience of that in my career, but I've had to learn how to actually look at a zombie and not be terrified.
I have a big fight scene that was choreographed by an amazing stunt team. I got to do the entire thing myself, which is always really fun. Multiple weapons, an MP5, a 9mm, a knife. It was my action star moment come to life, which is just really cool.
Getting to shoot the rocket launcher is pretty cool. When you think about, like, hey, I want to become an actor, I wonder what cool things I'll be able to do. Shooting a rocket launcher is pretty up there. Found it in first class. Audiences are going to be able to go into this movie and get what they want out of a horror-based Resident Evil movie. All the sort of building blocks that the game built as a foundation, we sort of expand upon all those ideas. So there's the scenes that the video game audience will really enjoy, but I think even outside of it, if you haven't played the video games, it just functions as a really good horror film. I would be surprised if you walked out of the cinema and didn't want to go play the games, because it's like a dipping your toe into a much larger, really fun world to be in.
It was very important with this movie to create a film that reflected not just the fans' desire to see a true adaptation of the games, but also to make a film that I loved as a gamer, the movie that I would have wanted to see.
There's lots and lots and lots of Easter eggs in this movie.
There are sounds that people recognize. There are costumes. There are set pieces that are spot on. It's like I'm living in the video game, and it's really exciting.
The concept for this movie was to go back to the first two iconic games, the Spencer Mansion and Police Station, and tell a story with the characters from the games. We really adapt them like we would a novel, taking the core elements and putting them on screen. Every frame has details to the game. From the burger that the trucker's eating to the actual truck design, it's all identical.
Watch out!
Resident Evil 1, I definitely played in the dark in my basement and still to this day remember jumping out of my skin when the dogs jumped through the window. So that's like ingrained in my mind from my childhood.
We got on very well with Capcom. They have been so integral to the movie.
What the fuck?
They gave us the actual blueprints of the mansion and the police station, so we built them to the spec of the game. Gave me shivers like walking into the mansion or seeing the police station for the first time. I was like, oh my god, I'm actually here. I'm in the game, you know. The thing about the games that made them so terrifying and visceral was they played with sound in a way that I had never come across before. You would be walking down a corridor and you would just hear this very distinctive, iconic sound of like this, ooh, of the zombies, and you knew something was happening, but you didn't know where. The first game was fixed camera angles, so you wouldn't be with your character, you'd watch the character go down and away, and then round the corner, and sometimes you wouldn't know what was around that corner, you wouldn't be following them. And we tried to incorporate that into the movie as well. It was a lot of fun.
The game holds such a 90s aesthetic, and I like that they sort of honored that.
There's a certain charm that it brings to the movie. It definitely adds some humor where we need it, and also allows us to get away with things like no cell phones or internet on your phone, and some easy escapes for people in modern day.
My initial thing went through the 90s was playing these games, and then they've obviously grown and grown and grown. So that's the magic for me with this particular movie, is how we're bringing back that nostalgia and that Palm Pilot. I mean, I remember having little devices like that. The jeans that they put me in, it's almost like, this is how baggy we wore them 30 years ago. Jeez, things were not fitted in the 90s.
There's something about this time that adds to the terror, because we don't have iPhones, we don't have the accessibilities of what we could do in the situation now, today. You're kind of on your own in a small town, and it was just a really nice touch.
There's a lot of fan favorites in this movie. Claire Redfield, Chris Redfield, Leon Kennedy, Albert Wesker, Jill Valentine.
The games have done this really brilliant job of building these characters up over a number of years, and we're trying to put that all together.
I'm playing Leon S. Kennedy, the rookie cop.
We really went back
Fuck this.
to the original second game, where he's quite a nerdy, reluctant hero.
He doesn't think he's got any value at all, but that's what's so great about the Leon story in this movie. He rises.
Claire's relationship with Leon is one of my favorites because they're such an unlikely pairing. Their worlds collide and they're forced to go on this journey together.
I just really want to get out of this town.
And throughout the movie, we feel their relationship strengthen and the respect for one another strengthen.
The costumes are really cool. One of the things that I really like about the Leon outfit is this piece of armor, but also these gloves. When I think of Leon, especially in Resident Evil 2, I think about the fingerless gloves. It's just sort of an iconic thing about the character.
Claire Redfield is a runaway from Raccoon City. She grew up in the orphanage, and now she's coming back to tell her brother some very important information. She's a very tough girl. She's like a street fighter. She can pick locks. She can use guns.
I really liked that Claire is a rounded character. She has her own journey. She isn't just there to shoot things. You know, she has a trajectory and an arc, and I love how rebellious she is, and she's an absolute badass.
With me and Claire, it's cool to be able to create a rapport between two characters and expand upon that, because, you know, in the game, they have a friendship. They kind of weave in and out of each other's story, but for this, we're really sort of locked in on each other. So developing that relationship and expanding upon what's already there in the games was really cool.
Claire's red jacket is spot on. I was literally just playing Resident Evil 2, and I showed her a picture. I'm like, come on.
Chris Redfield is a small-town hero. He's stayed in Raccoon City and he's part of this police force. And he is very much of a belief that everything Umbrella does is a good thing.
My character relationship with Chris is that he's my brother, estranged. When they first meet, you can tell that there's definitely some tension there. They perhaps haven't spoken for a long time, but there's an undeniable bond that they share from the trauma of their childhoods.
I remember when I got to my first wardrobe fitting, I was like, we gotta have the green vest. And it is a Vietnam War vest. The only difference is we took the neck out because the flak jacket neck, for shooting reasons, is very big and bulky and gets in the way. That's our only difference, really, as far as game versus movie goes for me.
Jill Valentine is definitely a loose cannon in the movie. She's a small-town girl. She has no problems going into action, but she's a little wild and a little crazy. We meet her in the movie as someone who's just a little unpredictable.
Really?
She's got such an amazing relationship with her force, her team. She's very loyal, and you don't mess with her. My character, Jill Valentine, we kind of find her in the diner with all the guys, and I remember thinking, I look so 90s. Like, it was the costume. I was like, this is so great.
Albert Wesker is known in the games to be one of the key villains of the story.
We meet him in the first game as this guy that double-crosses everybody. And what I wanted to do with this movie is really tell his origin story to not make him an evil person. And so we meet him and he's a good guy, but he's made some bad decisions.
One of the things I first asked Johannes, who were talking about it, was, am I going to be wearing the sunglasses through the movie? And he was like, no, I don't want, because it should feel raw, it should real. So the fact that Albert Wesker could be walking around in sunglasses just doesn't make any sense. But when something's happened to him later on in the movie that means he needs the sunglasses, that kind of sits within this world. So that was always really important, making sure there was a nod to the game, but keeping it in this raw, real world that we see it in.
I know you're up there. Oh, thank God. You gotta get me out of here, man. Who the fuck are you?
I think what would be most satisfying about the films for the fans is how we've really tried to inject all the little details from the games in the form of props, sets, costumes, and make them feel as though this is an adaptation that has really been faithful to its source material.
In the lobby of the police station, Leon's passed out and there's a typewriter beside him. I think most people who don't know the games would be like, why is there a typewriter? But if you know the games, I think you'll really appreciate them.
There's little things like paintings. There are actual images from the game. The map on the Palm Pilot is actually, if you look at the game, is very similar.
There are blue and green and red herbs, and anyone that played the game knows exactly what they're for. It was just so cool to see them, like, sitting on a shelf. They're not talked about directly, but they're there.
The movie has a little post-credits Easter egg that's very much a fan-based thing where we recreate the opening screen of the first game. We see Wesker alive when we thought he was dead, and we meet Ada Wong and realize she's been the person pulling the strings behind his sort of nefarious dealings. We see him, he's sort of blinded by the light, and she gives him some sunglasses, and he puts the sunglasses on, which is the iconic look of Wesker, and that's how we end the movie, and it's the beginning of Wesker as we know now.
You never told me your name.
Ada. My name is Ada Wong.
I've always been very much into horror, and then these games came out, and I started to see the references that I loved represented in games rather than movies. For the first time, a computer game was cinematic. And then a real changing point for me was Capcom rebooted the second game a few years ago, and it's just incredible. It's the most cinematic thing I'd ever seen in my life. It was like being immersed in a horror movie. And that coincided with us rebooting this franchise, and it really was the touchstone for how we approached this movie.